In this video, we're going to talk about if you should train what feels unnatural or not, or if you should just stick to what feels natural. The fast answer is both, but let me explain why. Everyone has had someone tell them before, it's supposed to be uncomfortable, just get used to it. But the truth is, some movements just don't work for some people. They spend countless hours grinding out movements or styles that are just not optimal for their body. When sadly, if they had spent that time learning something that was more natural, a lot of times they would be better and they would probably be more healthy. Here's an example of a situation that I'd seen before. I knew this guy that was built like a tank. He had really big arms and a really big chest, so he was really wide. And his coach kept telling him to cross parry because this is what their style does a lot and it's what they focus on. The cross parry is when you parry across your body with your dagger. The issue was he didn't do a cross very well because he was so wide that the shoulders and the bicep would catch. So the coach's solution was to extend first and then bring it over. But the issue here is that makes the parry take too much time. Then he kept getting hit more, he was getting frustrated, he ended up getting injured because of his shoulder and quit fencing. When in reality, if the coach had just told him to position himself in a way that feeds into a more natural or a better parry, he would have been a beast and he would have been a lot better. Now let's talk about the opposite problem when natural just isn't cutting it. Here's another example of a situation that I'd seen. I watched this fencer who liked to stand square with his arm forward, fully extended, and his palm down. It felt comfortable to him, but there's a big problem. He always liked to walk to the right, which would feed the attacks into his left, which was the hardest place for him to parry. His squared stance and palm down made it very difficult and time-consuming to parry the left side, but he kept walking to the right. And then to top it off, he wasn't even very strong, so he'd get tired really easily. His natural style wasn't just flawed, but it was working fundamentally against him and it was self-sabotage. He had to retrain his movements, unlearn bad habits, and adopt techniques that were awkward at first, but in the end, it eventually made him a better fencer. So what's the key takeaway here? It's not about choosing what feels natural and what feels uncomfortable. It's about striking a balance. When something feels wrong, ask yourself, is it uncomfortable because it's new, or is it just fundamentally wrong for me? Why am I learning the movements or style, and why am I refusing to change? Some styles may feel awkward at first, but you just want to learn the style. Just make sure that the movement you're learning doesn't feel awkward because it's mechanically wrong, and you could injure yourself. There's a difference between something being difficult and something being mechanically wrong that can hurt you. A lot of times if something feels wrong or really unnatural, odds are you're doing something incorrectly in the movement. Your body's pretty good at telling you these things. Try and recognize the difference so you don't injure yourself. And when something feels natural, don't just assume it's the best way. Rigorously test it, refine it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, let it go. At the end of the day, you're only as strong as your weakest link. The goal isn't to fight like someone else, it's to fight like the best version of yourself. So train smart, train often, and remember, your greatest weapon isn't your blade, it's your ability to learn.